Real quick before we get started here, I know I typically have some questionable intro here, but I wanted to take a second and just say thank you. Being this close to 1,500 subs in what amounts to 12 videos is the craziest feeling, and it's just really something I never would have expected in a million years. So, I don't know, here's some cookies, here's a few more. So, again, thank you. Now, if you wouldn't mind forgiving me, because I changed the video format again. Anyway, on with it. So, Borderlands the pre-sequel figuratively, or quite literally, moonwalking its way onto the scene 2 years post the absolute marvel that was the second game, was quite the surprise. For all intents and purposes, Gearbox had struck total gold with Borderlands 2, so tasking the Australian branch of the company with a follow-up was certainly a mountain of a challenge. But hell, they did it, for the most part. The pre-sequel was, again, a fantastic experience that managed to improve upon a system from 2, as well as add in some completely new and unique items, weapons, and features. Granted, I'd be lying if I said everything hit the mark here. There are a few things in particular I don't really understand why the decision was made, and for me, kinda takes a bit away from what Borderlands is, but we'll get there. Anyway, time's a-wasting. Let's go. Whee! Oh, too much, help! The pre-sequel certainly was an interesting entry into the Borderlands series in my opinion. On the one hand, I wasn't entirely sure what I was getting into, but I can happily say it was, for the most part, another great Borderlands experience. Essentially, the game kicks off and follows the backstory of Handsome Jack and his history with a few members of our motley crew from the second game, setting up both a deranged narcissistic sociopathic villain and the inciting incident that makes the likes of the Crimson Raiders enroll in such an enemy to him. The story is weirdly poetic in a way. Jack spends the entire game trying to hide his more sadistic nature behind a metaphorical mask until his actions just become so bad that he needs to be forcefully stopped, resulting in him needing to wear a literal mask to hide what he is from the world. And yeah, that essentially sums up the story of the pre-sequel. What's just all the more amusing about it as a whole is it plays out almost like a dramatic fallen hero story, when in reality as the player, you are sitting there the whole time asking when the hell was Jack ever the hero? He's always kind of been a sadistic lunatic. And of course there are a handful of new faces like the absolute joy that is Janie Springs, or the
lovely bubbly.
Shut the fuck up, Pickle! And who could forget 6 new Vault Hunters, who all have their own unique style and bring a different experience in every aspect of the game, even down to the dialogue. From what I have noticed, Athena has the most narrative interactions as she is the one recapping the events of Elpis, so that would make sense. And when it comes to Doppelganger, he seems to have more hilarious interactions with Jack and Moxie specifically. I haven't had the time to sit down and try out the rest. I'm currently itching to get to a Claptrap run, cause, I mean, come on, who the hell doesn't want to be the best character in the series? Anyone? Moving on. On top of bringing what I would argue is the most unique lineup of Vault Hunters thus far, that wasn't the only change-up the pre-sequel manages to squeeze into this installment of the series. Taking advantage of the moon of Elpis as the setting was a wonderful change to the game and added 2 new key features. One, the concept of zero gravity and O2 as a resource when outside of airlocks, and the Oz kits, which is the pre-sequel's versions of relics. Both of these changes, while on paper I guess don't really appear to be all that massive, added a lot to the gameplay loop. The Zero G, along with the Oz kits providing you the ability to double jump, allowed for much more map exploration, as now the game could get a bit more tricky with hidden chest locations, or in the case of a certain enemy, hiding whole ass boss rooms. Thank God I happened to come across that video, because I had no idea he was there and I never would have found him. This also added quite a bit of mobility to fights, as some Oz kits would actually give you bonuses for floating or just being off the ground in general. Granted, this added mobility needed to be managed, as double jumping, or essentially O2 dashing, cost you just that, your O2 supply. And while this was never hard to replenish, or really a consequence if it ran out, it was a whole new mode of movement, and certainly had me risking more than a few sketchy jumps under the guise of, well, yeah, I can probably make that. The Oz kits themselves were another fun piece of gear to hunt down, and while I'm not exactly sure if I prefer something like this over relics, it was actually pretty cool being able to put physical numbers to my gear. Sometimes percentages are hard to quantify if you aren't really paying attention, and sometimes it's only a minor change. So for the bird-brained out there, seeing number go up is good. Yay! I gotta learn how to manage percentage. Anyway, and the pre-sequel didn't stop there, because now we have the addition of the laser gun types. Full disclosure, I saw the new ammo type, found my first laser gun, and was like, oh cool, new weapon type. Fully assuming it was gonna be more gimmick based, or maybe one of those changes that kind of got placed on the back burner for the entire game, and was mainly just there as a selling point more than anything. But God, was I wrong. The laser weapons made up quite a bit of my kit for the longest time, especially when it came down for a weapon choice for mobbing. Granted, it took me a little while to notice just how effective they were, but after a while, they became my go-to elemental weapons, and I wholeheartedly enjoyed them. Something that was a wildly unexpected change coming from 2 to the pre-sequel was a replacement and, well, arguably an improvement to slag. I kind of remembered at some point that it was completely missing from the third game, and the more and more I sit with it in the second game, yeah, the reliance on slag was probably bound to be a problem at some point for the series had it continued on and on through the games. But Cryo, on the other hand, damn, it was a fun element to have as part of your arsenal. For one, freezing enemies while at the same time keeping with the theme of slag and increasing damage done to frozen targets was a great DPS boost when you needed it. But to me, the thing that was just so nice about Cryo is, while it was far too good to exclude from your arsenal altogether, it never felt 100% necessary even at true Vault Hunter mode or ultimate Vault Hunter mode. Whereas in Borderlands 2, I would argue slag is a recommendation at TVHM and a necessity at UVHM. Cryo never really hit that status. In fact, if my Cryo weapon was too out-leveled, I wasn't too worried about getting rid of it in favor of a strict DPS upgrade. Besides, I could always farm one I liked later if I really needed it back. Right? And last but not least, in terms of additions from the pre-sequel, and even though it was the only DLC, at least I think it is, I'm not entirely sure if the Holodome counts as a DLC, so yeah, we're going with it. The Claptastic Voyage was just fantastic. Need I say more? And hell, it even added a whole new rarity in the form of the glitch weapons, which after some testing and a bit of research, shit, there are some busted ass guns from this DLC. Yeah, anyway. So with all that said, yeah, we were gonna get here sooner or later, so here goes. I think the pre-sequel made some great changes and shook up the game with some even better additions, but damn, really? What happened to the endgame? And by what happened to it, I really mean, where is it? This was just wildly unexpected, especially coming off the back of Borderlands 2 with all of its raid bosses and other things that... It has come to my attention, after I laid into the game for about 7 minutes, my bad, that 2K Australia, the main developer, shut down less than 6 months after the release of the pre-sequel. So who knows if there was more planned for the game in terms of raid bosses or endgame content of that type. I don't think it's fair of me to essentially ridicule them over something they didn't have a chance to even attempt, so I'll just stick to the one problem I have with the pre-sequel. Thank you very much to Zomber, Eclipse Dark Soul, and SGX99 for bringing this to my attention on Twitch, because I 100% just ripped into them and had no idea they were shut down. Anyway, fast forward. The other aspect of the endgame that I really can't ignore is the lack of dedicated drops across the entire game. Look, I know not everyone loves farming weapons and gear the way I do for these games, and yeah, I won't deny at times it's a total pain in the ass when the boss or enemy you are farming just won't shit out that golden beam, but at least in Borderlands 2 with dedicated drops, you know at some point it will drop the weapon or item you are after. It might not be the perfect roll, but at least it's one of the things you are looking for. The pre-sequel, outside of a few select guns, you don't have that confirmation. Hell, you can get anything from any of the worldwide loot pools, so you may be chasing a pistol, but the odds of you ever seeing it drop from whoever you chose to farm is just so damn small that there's really no point in farming bosses. And hell, the pre-sequel may be more stingy than the second game when it comes to legendaries. I don't think I saw a legendary drop from a named enemy or boss anywhere on the goddamn map until the end of True Vault Hunter. And hey, I like it when legendaries feel like truly legendary drops, but when I'm not even sure what I'm gonna get, that just makes farming, well, it makes it irrelevant, because no one in their right mind is going to chase one specific worldwide pistol drop from one boss and just hope they get it. No, instead they use the grinder, which, okay, full honesty, it's a cool concept. It's a great moonstone sink. I fucking hate the thing. Personal problem, I know, bear with me. For one, credit where credit is due, the Moonstone currency was a wild improvement over the Iridium. So much so that I wish they had kept the bones of it going into the third game, but they didn't, so what are you gonna do? It's far more common of a drop, and giving it more uses outside of SDUs and raid boss entry fees made it feel like an actual fluid currency, so props there 100%. Now, as to the grinder, I get it. If you don't have dedicated drops, at least having a method to pinpoint point, a weapon type is definitely the call, and the concept is cool. Grind 3 weapons, throw in some moonstone, and out pops an upgrade. I can't knock it in terms of uniqueness, and in a lot of degrees, it is just like the farming I love in a different form, because you still need to get legendaries to grind up in the first place, but for me, it's wildly unsatisfying. Go kill Irohjira a few dozen times for his launcher, he's one of the only few with a dedicated drop, then go locate a purple and the gun type I want, shove it in the grinder, and hope for the best. Yay! Okay, I probably need to stop. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's a bad system. It's actually a pretty good system. I just don't like it, and I'm a fucking fussy baby. You know, actually, it's kind of funny how I feel about the grinder. I'm sure it mirrors how some people feel about traditional farming in Borderlands 2. Repetitive, repetitive, repetitive. At the end of the day, to each their own. You may love it, it is just not something I would be able to farm out for hours upon hours, similar to BL1 and its chest farms. For me, Borderlands 2 is farming at its peak. Stingy enough to feel like I earned it, but also with the confirmation that I will eventually get what I am looking for. So seeing this complete lack of dedicated drops in a game that directly followed Borderlands 2 threw me through a loop. That being said, even with the complete lack of farming outside of the grinder, again, if you want to do the grinder for hours upon hours at a time, it's not exactly hard. It's still just a matter of you're never really guaranteed to get what you want. You'll get the right type, you just won't get the exact one you want. But with that being said, I don't exactly think the replayability of the pre-sequel necessarily would suffer. It still has 6 Vault Hunters, all with 3 playthroughs respectively on each, and even that alone is a lot to get through. Sure, the endgame may not be the greatest in the world, and hell, maybe there is an argument that taking Vault Hunters to max level just isn't worth it without something to aim for. But as per usual, there are still plenty of reasons for another playthrough of a Borderlands game. So, is Borderlands the pre-sequel worth $39.99? Holy fuck, that's more than I thought it was, yikes. In that case, no, probably not, especially considering the entire Handsome Collection is also $39.99. So, yeah, if you are going to pick it up, either get it in the collection or wait till it's on sale. It's been seen as low as $3.99. I'll tell you, some of these collections and these price schemes is just screwing up my entire shtick over here. God damn it. Anyway, at the end of the day, regardless of how you get your hands on the game, I highly doubt you would be disappointed, especially if you love the Borderlands series and want a little bit of a shakeup. And hell, maybe there's more of an incentive. If you didn't enjoy farming in Borderlands 2, you might really like the grinder here. For me, unfortunately, as much as I love Jack and I love the story, I think the pre-sequel has fallen down the list quite a bit. 2 is still winning by a long shot, but guess where we're going next? That's right, it's Tales from the Borderlands. Then 3 after that. I don't know why, man. I'm nervous to go back to Borderlands 3. I'm scared my opinion's gonna be in the toilet for it. That's about it from me. Sorry if I completely changed the style of the video again, but I'm really working on being more concise, and I think locking myself to specific aspects for each section was forcing me to say things more than once to make a singular point, and then I wind up talking in circles, and it's just a mess. But yeah, this is usually where I would say I have a plan for the next video, but might just be Tales next week. I'm working on a backlog of videos while putting these out, as I may be moving to a wild work schedule in the coming months, so would like to have a backlog ready to go just in case so I can stay consistent. Potentially, maybe we finish up all the series I've started so far, and then I can just work on a backlog of a bunch of one-off games. Plans have never been my strong suit. Problem for tomorrow. Anyway, see ya.